wonderful day to you all, my dear students, my BE Ed students, my BTBT Ed students, my architectural drafting students, and of course, my community development students.
Today we are on lesson 5 of our subject, Understanding the Self, which still focuses on the theoretical perspective of the self.
Sit back, relax, and listen carefully so that you will be able to participate in our discussion as we go along. Get ready to chat in the live chat your inputs or questions about the topic, and of course, comment below present for your attendance this week.
Hello again, class. So today, before midterm, we are going to discuss another theoretical perspective, but this time we are going to focus on moral development. But before we begin, I would like to hear in the live chat, what is your idea about morality, or what is moral? Where do we get our guidance on our moral behaviors? Mostly answers moral is concerned with what is right and wrong. And it is guiding us towards behaving or towards our human character. Kung ano ba dapat mag-act like ethics. So I would like to introduce to you our discussion today about Lawrence Kohlberg's theory of moral development. Paano bala nag-evolve ang aton nga definition sa morality from birth until who we are now.
Hello, good day. So we are about to tackle and discuss the 3 levels of moral development and their stages. But first, what is moral development?
Lawrence Kohlberg developed one of the best-known theories. His work modified and expanded upon Jean Piaget's 2-stage process of moral development. Piaget's theory proposing that moral development is a continual process that occurs throughout the lifespan. He used Piaget's storytelling technique to tell people stories involving moral dilemmas.
Kohlberg's theory of moral development is a theory that focuses on how children develop morality and moral reasoning. Kohlberg's theory suggests that moral development occurs in a series of 6 stages. The theory also suggests that moral logic is primarily focused on seeking and maintaining justice.
Kohlberg's theory of moral development mainly focuses on how children develop morality and moral reasoning. His theory is broken down into 3 primary levels, wherein each level has 2 stages. The theory also suggests that moral logic is primarily focused on seeking and maintaining justice.
Moral development focuses on the emergence, change, and understanding of morality from infancy to adulthood. Morality itself is often a synonym of rightness and goodness. Some philosophers took humanist perspective like Confucius and Aristotle to focus on the development of conscience and the sense of virtue.
Kohlberg's theory of moral development. According to Kohlberg, moral development is a theory that focuses on how children develop morality and moral reasoning. Kohlberg's theory suggests that moral development occurs in a series of 6 stages. The theory also suggests that moral logic is primarily focused on seeking and maintaining justice.
According to an American psychologist, Lawrence Kohlberg, it constitutes an adaptation of a psychological theory originally conceived by Jean Piaget. Basically, Kohlberg modifies the work of Piaget, but he only centered on how children develop moral reasoning. He expanded the work of Piaget and defined it as a continuous process that occurs throughout the lifespan. He classified these reasonings into 6 stages.
What is moral development according to Lawrence Kohlberg? Kohlberg's theory of moral development is a theory that focuses on how all children develop morality and moral reasoning. Kohlberg's theory suggests that moral development occurs in a series of 6 stages. The theory also suggests that moral logic is primarily focused on seeking and maintaining justice. Kohlberg also identified the 3 distinct levels of moral reasoning: pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional.
Alright, so sorry kay Julina, wala ko na-change ang imong name diri sa aton nga video. But according to Christine, Julina, Carrie, Anne, Ren, and Vivian, may ara kita 3 levels sa moral development ni Lawrence Kohlberg. And on those levels, may kita lain-lain or 2 stages each. So I don't want you to be confused. Sa level 1, ang dira na sugod ang stage 1 and stage 2. Sa level 2, stage 3 and stage 4. And sa level 3, stage 5 and stage 6. So i-discuss na tanan subong. And we will start with level 1.
Pre-conventional morality is the earliest period of moral development. It lasts until around the age of 9. At the pre-conventional level, children don't have a personal code of morality, and instead, moral decisions are shaped by the standards of adults and the consequences of following or breaking their rules. This perspective involves the idea that what is right is what one can get away with or what is personally satisfying. There are 2 stages within this level.
Pre-conventional morality is the first stage of moral development and lasts until approximately age 9. At the pre-conventional level, children don't have a personal code of morality, and instead, moral decisions are shaped by the standards of adults and consequences of following or breaking the rules. During the pre-conventional level, a child's sense of morality is externally controlled. Children accept and believe the rules of authority figures such as parents and teachers, and they judge an action based on its consequences.
This is level 1 of pre-conventional morality, and I'm Chelsea Figueroa. This is morality's initial level. It affects a lot of kids and teens. Pre-conventional morality is most pronounced in preschool. The majority of pupils have it in elementary school. Some students are still dealing with it by the time they get to middle school. It's rarer in high school.
Level 1, Pre-conventional morality. In this level, morality is externally controlled. Rules imposed by authority figures are conformed to in order to avoid punishment or receive rewards. This perspective involves the idea that what is right is what we can get away with. For example, if an action leads to punishment, it must be bad. And if an action leads to reward, it must be good.
First level of moral development is pre-conventional morality. It is the earliest period of moral development. It lasts until around the age of 9. At this age, children's decisions are primarily shaped by the expectation of adults and the consequences for breaking the rules.
And this is the continuation of pre-conventional morality at level 1. So, many children doesn't know what is right and wrong things to do. That's why guidance is required to them. As they grow older, they will do moral behaviors, or they can also perceive immoral actions because they will know what is right and wrong things to do. Thank you.
Now you know what is level 1 all about, or ano ang 2 ka stages under sa level 1 of moral development. It is concerned more with the child or sa mga bata pa, and ano ang guide sa ilang moral development, or anong gatudlo sila kung ano ang insakto kag sila. Ang indicator nila is kung gina-rewardan sila, buot silingon, ay insakto gali ang inobra ko. Or kung ginakigan sila or punish sila, buot silingon sala. So, I want you to reflect on that nga, sa gamay ka bala, may kabala times nga gina-rewardan ka, kay may insakto kang ginubra, or may man nga gin-punish ka, kay wala ka lang kabalo. Diba daw, hindi klaro ang imong nga pag-intindi. So, dapat kita as adults now, guiding kids, or kung may mga manghod kita or bata, dapat ipa-explain tagid or iklawon tagid sa ila kung ano ang sala at ano ang insakto. Kay especially subong nga may social media na, nidamon sila makita sa TV. Wala, hindi lang ikaw ang i-influence ang ilang moral development, kundi maski ng iba nga tao, like ang mga gina-look up nila, nga kung fan sila, bisang amo sila, kaga amo na ang isa ka famous personality, dapat ikaw ginagaydan mo sila kung anong ilang ginalantaw, pag ginailog sa TV, para hindi sila mag-confuse kung anong sala sa insakto. I hope klaro ang pag-explain ni Chelsea, Darren, Gian, Trisha, and Danielle sa level 1 of pre-conventional moral development.
The first stage is obedience and punishments. People at this stage see the rules as fixed and absolute. Adults can also express this type of reasoning, but it is prevalent for young children because they see the rules as essential and fundamental. They need to obey them to avoid punishments.
At this stage of moral reasoning, the individual acts from other belief that if they do something wrong, they will be punished. So the best reason for avoiding doing wrong is to avoid punishment. Example, obedience and punishment driven morality would be a child refusing to do something because it is wrong, that the consequences could result in punishment.
The earliest stage of morality development, obedience and punishment, that usually refers to a person ages under 9-year-old, is usually common in young children. But adults are also capable of expressing this type of reasoning. According to Kohlberg, people at this stage see the rules as fixed and absolute.
This stage is known as punishment obedience orientation, and it indicates that behavior is influenced by consequences. To avoid punishment, individuals should obey. Children, for example, desire to obey rules and avoid punishment. If they are punished, it gives a signal that their behavior is morally incorrect.
Stage 1. Obedience and punishment. The earliest stages of moral development, obedience and punishment are especially common in young children, but adults are also capable of expressing this type of reasoning. According to Kohlberg, people at this stage see rules as fixed and absolute. Obeying the rules is important because it is a way to avoid punishment.
Thank you, Maybelline, Jonah, Diane, Alyssa, and Jessica for explaining to us stage 1 of moral development. And kung manutaran nyo class, it talks about obedience and punishment. Kung masunod ka, then well and good. Kung wala ka gani kapati, then you will be punished. So, ano diri class ang factor nga mag-aapekto sa isa ka bata? Nag-establish pa lang sa iyang pag-intindi sa morality. Of course, dapat ikaw nga adult nga sugo or ga-humble sa isa ka bagay nga or ga-punish man, dapat, klaro man ang imo pag-intindi. Kung dapat yun man bala i-punish ang bata or dapat yun man siya bala rewardan, kaya ang iya nga indicator sa morality is ang consequence ng iyang actions. Alright? Sige, you can chat your thoughts sa atong live chat as we go along sa discussion para makita ko man ang inyong mga own experience. Kasi syempre kung ako lang ang gambal, limited lang man yan ang ako yung experience. So, sa inyo, so you can chat para maka-form kita sa discussion sa atong live chat with regards to your own experiences as well with obedience and punishment. May it be from your own experience as a kid or kung may ara man itong experience sa mga pamanghuran nyo or sa mga bata nyo kung may ara na. Alright, let's move on to the next stage.
Kohlberg's second stage of moral development is defined as instrumental orientation position, in which right behavior is defined by whatever the individual believes to be their best interest. Stage 2 reasoning shows a limited interest in needs of others, only to the point where it might be the individual's own interest.
Instrumental orientation. It expresses the what's in it for me position, in which right behavior is defined by whatever the individual believes to be in their best interest. It shows a limited interest in the needs of others, only it might further the individual's own interest. Concern for others is not based on the loyalty or intrinsic respect, but rather as you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours mentally.
Today, I will discuss the stage 2, which is individualism and exchange. In the second stage of moral development is a self-interest driven, which is the decisions are based on whatever the person believes to his self-interest, true without considering the impact on one's reputations or relationships with others.
In this stage, which is called instrumental orientation, behavior is determined by consequences. The individual focuses on receiving rewards or satisfying needs. For example, children act like give-and-take strategy. You do my work and I will do yours. In this stage, children take some incentives in return to do.
The individualism and exchange stage of moral development, children account for individual points of view and judge actions based on how they serve individual needs.
Alright, thank you Kate, Christine, Maravik, RV, and Elaine for explaining to us stage 2, which is individualism and exchange or instrumental relativist orientation. So, what is this stage all about? Ang hambal nila kagina, ang keyword is self-interest. You are more focused on kung ano ang makabenepisyo sa imo. Like, hindi ka mag-ubrasa ng something kung wala ka, may makuha in return. Hambal ni Christine, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Alright? So, doon na nag-form ang idea nga dito ka lang maki-involve kung diin kaya bala may makuha or may mag-gain. Wala doon ka, ang amo na nga mentality class is, di ba doon ka kitid? Ma-focus ka lang yan kung diin ka makagain. Wala ka pagpanumdum sa community as a whole, wala ka pagpanumdum sa interest sa iba niya tao or kung diin mas makabenefit ang tanan. Right? So, i-clarify ko lang, that's why this is a progressing stage, amat-amat. it's a development. So sa daka gali nga edad, ga-form na sa imo nga, ay okay, sa diri may makuha ako, sa diri wala. So kung susubong, mo pa nagyapo lang yung mentality, titingin ka pa lang, stage 2 ka pa lang yan sa moral development, more ka pa lang yan kung ano yung mag-gain mo. Like, example, diri sa aton klase, I'm always encouraging you to help each other out. Kaya hindi man pwede nga nag-iisa ka lang, wala ko class, wala nalamian nga, ginapabayaan nyo lang inyo classmates nga mag-isa lang siya, especially during these hard times. That's why I encourage you to be with a student body or to be with friends, kag magbuligay. Kag dara naman kayo sulod kung what is moral. Ang bulig nga nabala, is it nang ginpaagi sa isa ka malaing way, like cheating, or gapahapos na lang nasundanay? So that is not good. What I am inspiring you to do is to help each other, like kung nabudlayan sa, buligan mo siya to cope with the lesson, or ikaw mismo kayo mas nakaintindi ka, ipaintindi mo siya how you understood it. Kaya hindi yun gani makuha ang lesson. Pero kung masili ka nga, ay nga, mabulig mo ko niya siya, yaman nga ako gani, doon nabudlayan naman ko gani sa amuni nga, di yun, ma-care pa ko sa ilang pinanglan. O, diba? So, you ask yourselves, kung amo malabi yung mentality sang iban towards sa imo, do you think may growth ang ato na community? Do you think magunlad ang Pilipinas? Okay.
The conventional level of moral reasoning is typically of adolescents and adults. To reason in a conventional ways to judge the morality of action by comparing them to society's views and expectations. The conventional level consists of the third and fourth stages of human development.
Conventional morality is characterized by acceptance of social rules concerning right and wrong. During these stages, adherence to the rules and conventions is somewhat rigid, and the appropriateness or fairness of a rule is rarely questioned. Reasoning is based on the norms of the group to which the person belongs.
Conventional morality is characterized by acknowledgement of society's tradition concerning right and wrong. At this level, a person complies rules and takes after society's standards. Indeed, when there is no consequences for obedience and disobedience, adherence to rules and convention is somewhat rigid. However, rule suitability and decency is seldom questioned.
Conventional development is the second stage of moral development, and it's characterized by the acceptance of social rules concerning right and wrong. At the most conventional level, most adolescents and adults, we begin to internalize the moral standards of value adult role models.
Level 2 of moral development is also known as conventional morality. In this second level of moral development, it is distinguished by accepted social rules or norms as to whether a person's action is right or wrong. As such, an individual's action is based on to the group of he or she belongs.
Conventional morality. This next period of moral development is marked by the acceptance of social rules regarding what is good and moral. During these times, adolescents and adults internalize the moral standards they have learned from their role models and from their role models and from society. This period also focuses on the acceptance of authority and conforming to the norms of the group. There are two stages at this level of morality.
Thank you, Queen, Norjean, Angela, Aya, Heinz, and Krishnel for that explanation on conventional morality. I hope na intindihan man sa tanan. The keyword there is kung ano ka nga social group na belong. Dara ga-define or dara mo ma-define on what is moral. Like sa inyong group of friends. Kung hindi sila hilig mag-inom, tapos ikaw gainom ka. Tapos nabalaan nila nga gainom ka gali. So mambal na lang sila dahil nga, ay nang gainom ka, hindi nabala nami, niya mo na. Diba? So is there something wrong with drinking? Kung sa inyo mga gainom, di ba pwede ka mo ka-reason nga on occasion, okay lang man, kung may celebration, basta hindi lang tama. Personally, ako wala ko gainom. And before, ang ako niya mindset, kung may mabalaan ko nga, ay gainom ka, no, close na tayo na akong mind dira. So that was during my college days class. So subong syempre, I know better na.
Stage 3. Developing good interpersonal relationship, often referred to as the good boy, good girl orientation. It focuses on living up to social expectations and roles.
It focused on living up social expectations and roles.
Teenagers are usually around this stage of morality. They gain the beliefs that people should behave in good or decent ways, living up their potential and expectations of their community and families. Their motive should be good and they should gain interpersonal feelings like love, concern, empathy, and trust for others.
The stage 2 is developing good interpersonal relationship. This stage focuses on living up to social expectations and rules. Teenagers around this kind of morality. They gain the beliefs that people should behave in good or decent ways, living up to their potentials and expectations of their community and families. Their motives should be good and they should gain interpersonal feeling like love, concern, empathy, and trust for others.
It was good interpersonal relationship defined as the child or individual is good in order to be seen as being a good person by others. Therefore, answer relate to the approval of others, or in other words, what the majority thinks is right by definition.
Stage 3 of Kohlberg's theory of moral development is developing good interpersonal relationships.
Often referred to as the good boy, good girl orientation, this stage of the interpersonal relationship of moral development is focused on living up to social expectations and roles. There is an emphasis on conformity, being nice, and consideration of how choices influence relationships.
So thank you, Nikki, Ilona, Elizabeth, Bridget, and Lady for explaining to us stage 3. So ano ang ilang keyword na ginhatag? The good boy and good girl orientation. Kung diin nga gusto mo bala maging good ang panulok sa imo sang people around you. So sa hambal yan ni Lady, nga therefore, answer relate to the approval of others. What the majority think is right by definition. So ang ginasunod mo, blaga conform ka to the pattern of this world. Okay, may quote na ko sa Bible verse. Kaya para sa imo, kung ginasunod mo kung ano ang ginaubraman sa iban, then you will be accepted by society. So you have good interpersonal relationships with other people. So amo pa lang na ang imo nga mindset on what is moral, kung ano ang accepted by the majority.
Stage 4, maintaining social order. This stage is focused on ensuring that social order is being maintained. At this stage of moral development, people begin to consider society as a whole when making judgments.
Focus is on maintaining law and order by following the rules, doing one's duty, and respecting authority.
In this stage, which called maintaining the social order, the child or the individual becomes aware of the wider rules of the society, so judgment concerns obeying the rules in order to uphold the law and to avoid guilt.
Good day, homies! So today we will be discussing the fourth stage theory of moral development, which is maintaining social order. Rules and regulations are to be followed and obeyed. In the above example, the man should not steal because it is against the law. Each person becomes more aware of the impact of everyone's action and obey authorities. Pertaining to the example above, they understand why he wanted to steal but cannot support the idea of theft. Society cannot maintain order if the member decided to break the law when they thought they had a good reason to do so.
Stage 4, maintaining social order. This stage is focused in ensuring that social order is maintained. At this stage of moral development, people begin to consider society as a whole when making judgments. The focus is on maintaining law and order by following the rules, doing one's duty, and respecting the authority.
The fourth stage shows a person's moral development as people consider society as a whole when making judgments. The focus is on maintaining the law and order by following the rules, doing one's duty, and respecting authority. Rules are viewed as uniform.
Alright, pasensya gid ang ibang names, wala ko na change, but that was Vincent, Kristia, Jaire, Sheila, and Bea for stage 4 for maintaining social order. So sa word wala nga maintain, dapat gina-keep mo ang social order, social, society. Ang example ko lang ang sa school, sa may face-to-face pa. Diba ang school may rules siya. Like, may yata kita uniform, hindi na follow. So, hindi pwede nga makadto ka sa school nga ma-civilian ka lang all day. Kaya ang rule gani is to wear your uniform. Pero kung hindi kaya kasaho personally sa inyo nga uniform, like, especially kung girl ka, gusto mo yan, naka-pants ka, diba, nang ang imo nga feeling, gakontra ka gid. Pero are you gonna protest on your own para Gugon mo bala ang social order sa amo na nga school, or you will follow the rules, or you will choose to follow the rules na lang kay voluntary, or ikaw man ang decide to enroll yourself in that school knowing na ginbutang mong self mo under dira to follow kung ano man ang rules nga ihatag sang eskwelahan dira.
Third level is post-conventional morality, which is the highest stage of morality. People develop an understanding of abstract moral ideas regarding right and wrong at this level of moral code, which often includes such essential human rights, liberty, and justice. The people at this level see things in a different perspective than their own civilization. When this conflict arises, people should remain committed to their own ethics.
Post-conventional level moral development. The third and highest level of moral reasoning characterized by the individual's commitment to moral principle, sustained independently of any identification with family, group, or country. At the post-conventional level, that individual moves beyond the perspective of own society, in which individuals have developed their own personal set of ethics and morals that they use to drive their own behavior.
At this level, the individual moves beyond the perspective of his or her own society. A person's sense of morality is defined in terms of more abstract principles and values. This level is marked by a growing realization that individuals are separate entities from society and that they may disobey rules inconsistent with their own principles.
The level 3 of moral development is post-conventional morality. Throughout the post-conventional level, a person's sense of morality is defined in terms of more abstract principles values. People now believe that some laws are unjust and should be changed or eliminated, so these stages are achieved by few.
This level of moral development, people develop an understanding of abstract principles of morality. And there are two stages at this level of morality. The first stage is social contract and individual rights, and the second stage are universal principles.
What is post-conventional morality? Post-conventional morality is the third stage of moral development and is characterized by an individual's understanding of universal ethical principles. These are abstract and ill-defined but might include the preservation of life at all costs and the importance of human dignity.
So thank you, Angela, Paul, Michelle, Jeremy, Agnes, and Kent for explaining to us the level 3 of moral development. So in order to understand better, I would like us to proceed na lang sa stages under this level, and it requires like a higher level of thinking naman, and I am confident that most of you are already in this level. Okay, so what is stage 5 of moral development?
Stage 5. Social contract and individual rights. The ideas of a social contract and individual rights cause people in the next stage to begin to account for the differing values, opinions, and beliefs of other people. Rules of law are important for maintaining a society, but members of the society should agree upon these standards.
At this stage of moral reasoning, the world is viewed as holding different opinions, rights, and values. Such perspectives should be mutually respected as unique to each person or community. Laws are regarded as social contract rather than rigid edicts.
In this stage, members begin to consider what makes for a good society. They reflect on what is good and just. Reflecting on the morals and ethics of their current society allows them to address inconsistencies in their values and attempt to fix on what they do not agree with.
Social contract and individual rights. The child or individual becomes aware that while rules and laws might exist for the good of the greatest number, there are times when they will work against the interests of particular individuals. The issues are not always clear-cut. For example, in Heinz dilemma, the protection of life is more important than breaking the law against stealing.
Stage 5 of Kohlberg's theory of moral development is social contract and individual rights.
That was stage 5, social contract. According to Grisel, Ina, Ira, Rona, and Regine, there are rules that exist for the betterment of society as a whole. Pero those rules can be questioned. Like, ang example, nakagina sa school, as a girl, you don't like wearing dresses or skirts as your uniform. So, anong mabrahon mo? Instead of protesting para ma-disrupt ang social order sa school, you may appeal to the Gender and Development Office because may kita sa amo ng office na pwede ka mag-write Nga ang girls, yung mga mas skirt, how can we have an amendment to the rule? Can we have a consideration? So, you don't know kung anong result. At least, wala mo na break ang social order. Kaya ang imo bilang way of addressing the issue is in a professional level. Hindi nga, ano ka na lang to yan, nagbandal ka to sa banyo nga, ay nga mo niya, ang school yaman nga, dapat ginapilit, gid, ang mga student, di ba?
The stage 6 of Colbert's theory of moral development is the universal ethical principle orientation.
Kohlberg's final level of moral reasoning is based on universal ethical principles and abstract reasoning. At this stage, people follow these internalized principles of justice even if they conflict with laws and rules.
Universal principle. In this stage, people have developed their own set of moral guidelines which may or may not fit the law. These principles apply for everyone. For example, people tend to judge things according to how they acknowledge right and wrong.
Universal principles refers as concept of legal legitimacy action. Kohlberg's final level of moral reasoning is based on universal ethical principles and abstract reasoning.
Stage number 6, Universal Ethical Principles.
Where people who work on incorporate justice and creating a fair society for all. According to Kohlberg, the basis of one's action is not just the common good or social contract but a deeper universal principles. At this stage, people follow internalized principle of justice even if they conflict with laws and rules. Individuals may disobey rules inconsistent with their own morality.
Stage 6 was developed when Kohlberg discovered that elected processes do not always result in fair outcomes. The sixth stage was created to acknowledge the use of justice and moral reasoning. General universal morals and ethics are used as baseline for what is right and just.
Alright, so that was Alwar, Valen, Maxine, Fatima, and Lovely on the last stage of moral development, which is universal principles. And after all the stages that you've been through or people go through, syempre, we now have the ideas of what is right and what is wrong. And at the same time, we also develop our own idea or our own principles on kung anong insakto kag kung ano ang sala. Some of us don't reach or don't, according lang ni kay Kohlberg, wala nakalabot sa among nga stage. Because most people would like to just conform with society kung ano bala ang ginaagrihan sang kadam-an. Like, sa kay Jose Rizal before, di ba la? Like, sa una, sa colonize kita, sang Spanish, di ba la? We are afraid, or the people are afraid to go against them. But because of our heroes like Jose Rizal, nga nag-go against, nga gambal siya nga gina-enslave lang kita, nga wala kita ga-develop sa aton own culture, di ba? He was prepared to die for the Filipino people. So, do you think you also have that mindset, or are you prepared to risk your life in order to fight for what you think is right?
The story of Kohlberg. Summary. Lawrence Kohlberg utilized a tale about an ethical dilemma encountered by a character named Heinz to measure the moral reasoning skills of those he asked to reply to it. Heinz must decide whether to steal an expensive medicine that gives the sole hope of rescuing his dying wife after exhausting all other options.
So kamo, kay nakaintindi na kamo because we have discussed it, I want you to establish your own idea of morality and what is right and wrong. And for me, personally, morality, I anchor it to the Word of God, to the Bible. Kung ano ang purpose ni Lord para sa akin on doing what is His will for me. As a Christian class, it is not also easy nga mambal kabi nga balaan mo na kung anong sila agin sakto, then you go for what is right because you are still influenced by the people around you. And I'm not saying this nga ma-follow-follow ka lang. For me, mambal ko yan nga, dito ka lang masulod dapat sa universal principle mo on what we know is moral. So if you don't know yet, kung diin ka mamukuha sa guidance nyo on morality, I am encouraging you to read the Word of God and reflect on it. And with that, I am leaving you with this verse na gina-discuss natin pa kagina, Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. So sa ginasiling or sa buot silingon, hindi ka magsunod-sunod class kung ano lang ang ginaubra sa majority, ubrahon mo man. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Ikaw mismo dapat nakabalo. So, paano ka makabalo kung wala ka gabasa, di ba? Kung wala ka kuha guidance. Alright? So, I hope that you learned something. And with that, I want you to chat sa aton nga live chat on your learnings for our lesson for today. I want you also to prepare for our upcoming group quiz. So, this will be our last lesson for midterm. And next week, we will have our group quiz on our class schedule, and it will be via Zoom class. So I want you to prepare for that. I will post the instructions on our Facebook group. And I would also like to acknowledge everyone, maskin sa mga previous supporters nila class, na kanami gid sa inyong mga gadras update ka mo. I really admire sa mga people nga kanami mamayo when facing the camera. I also appreciate sa mga nami nag-edit sa ilang videos, nami sa mga background. It is really visually appealing. So thank you gid class for putting on the effort on those videos, and guaranteed nga taas gid ang inyong points dira. Syempre wala man po ga put down sa mga simple lang ang mga videos, but the idea is there. And I really like nga ang content nyo bila sa mga 20 seconds na capture nyo gid kung ano ang gusto ko nga ipa-discuss sa inyo. So as you chat, you're learning sa aton nga live chat. You may also chat your input. Kung may questions na mo, feel free to chat it. I will give you more time so that we can go over it and discuss it here.
I hope you learned something, and I hope na may nagdugang sa inyo nga kaalaman. If you have more questions, we will continue our discussion for this week sa aton nga Facebook group. Have a great week! God bless!
ありがとうございます。